very special guest today to talk about what's going on with the Department of Government Efficiency. It has been a whirlwind since Donald Trump was sworn in on January 20th. And we have somebody who has been following this in a very close way. His name is Bill Walton. He was a member of the Trump presidential transition team. He's the host of the Bill Walton Show. He does in-depth conversations with leaders, entrepreneurs, and he has done a lot of important work back in 2016, 2017. He led the agency action and landing teams for all the federal economic agencies, Treasury, IRS, Commerce, Social Security, you name it, for Donald Trump. He also served as chairman of the board and CEO of Allied Capital Corporation. He's done a lot of work in finance. Bill, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us. What's been going on with DOGE is just unbelievable. It's happening so quickly. What do you make of it, Bill?
Well, you need to multitask if you're following DOGE. I mean, there's a big story almost every day. And the thing that's interesting is I worked on the transition in 2016, 2017, and the difference between what was happening then in Trump's first term versus what's happening now is just night and day. Back then we were working down in Washington. Trump was up at Trump Tower. He didn't know Washington. We didn't know him very well. And then all of a sudden he comes down to get inaugurated, and then we get it sort of launched then. He doesn't have appointees in place. What we're seeing now is with this transition is that it looks like he's had this team lined up for months before he launched. And of course, the gift that keeps on giving is that Elon Musk showed up in midsummer, campaigned for him in Pennsylvania, I think helped him win Pennsylvania. And since then has been, at first he was camping out in Mar-a-Lago. Now I think he's camping out on the floor of his office building, in the executive office building, which is right across the street from the White House. Now, as I said, it's hard to keep up with exactly what's going on, but there was a testimony before Congress by the fellow who runs LexisNexis Information Services, and he's been working with various government agencies over the years to prevent fraud and abuse and that sort of thing. And it turns out that what's happening with our federal government is we've been sending out money, billions, trillions, well, not trillions quite yet, but hundreds of billions of dollars to recipients that we don't know the identity of. And a lot of this came about, I mean, it's been going on forever, but then with the money sent out to people during the COVID lockdowns, it amped up enormously. And to make it, to borrow the DOGE term, to make things more efficient, they started engaging in self-reporting, which is what you would just sort of tell them to send it to you, and they didn't double check to make sure that you weren't getting it in 2 or 3 other places. Anyway, he estimates the extent to which the amount of fraudulent payments could be a cool $1 trillion, just doing that without even eliminating programs.
That's amazing. Now, Bill, we're hearing a lot of squealing in Washington, D.C., and not all of it only from Democrats. You got NGO leaders that have been on the take. We're hearing that it's unconstitutional, that Elon Musk is out of control. He needs to be reined in. What do you make of these arguments? Does Trump have the authority to appoint people to the executive branch who take a look at these kinds of things?
Well, they've thought this through. They had teams of lawyers before they even launched this. And one thing they've done that's very clever is that DOGE is not something they just created. What they did was they put it inside an entity called the United States Digital Service. And you remember when the government websites, none of them worked during Obamacare? They set up an agency that reported to the government called the president rather, called the United States Digital Services. And it has all the legal authorizations to go into every single agency. And remember, this was to fix an IT problem. And they've got the right to let me see what they've got here. It's the order to create this was written to block legal challenges, and also was given the DOGE authorization to go inside every single agency. Nobody expected that they would take the follow the money so literally and so effectively. And what they've done is that they've just mapped the payment systems, and they started famously mapping the payment systems at USAID and they will be doing it in Treasury. They're blocked temporarily by a judge. The thing that we saw with USAID was that a lot of this money we thought was going out to worthy recipients around the world. Turns out a lot of it had a lot of skim attached to it. A lot of it came back here. So there's fraud in the way that money was going out. And I think when we get to the bottom of it, it's going to be not only squealing, but people are going to be worried about going to jail. Evidently, there's scuttlebutt that there are people trying to scan hard drives, and they're looking up things on the internet. What is it that Hillary do? Oh, bleach your computer.
Yeah, I heard that they're on Google. The searches for criminal defense attorneys in the DC area right now are just through the roof. And I'm not surprised. A lot of people, I think, are rightly concerned that all this is going to eventually be aired to the public. Bill, we've only got a couple minutes left in this segment. And I know you've been primarily focused on the money side, the finance side of things. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about some of what's going on the international front. We've got Trump trying to set up peace talks right now in Saudi Arabia for the Ukraine situation. We've got what's going on in the Middle East with this interesting proposal to take over Gaza. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I think it's another terrific example of Donald Trump changing the paradigm, changing the subject. And, I can only imagine he's coming into Israel and he looks at the Gaza Strip, and as a real estate developer, he's looking at that 25 miles of pristine beach and the deep blue waters of the Mediterranean, and he's thinking, what a space that was wasted. Now, this was before the Israeli Gaza or the Hamas fight started. But by doing this, what he's done, he basically said, we're going to plow the place down and come back and have it redeveloped. And we're going to do it with redevelopment money from other countries in the Middle East and maybe some other outside money. And then they're going to relocate the Gazans to other countries in the area. And what it does is it sort of kills the two-state solution in its tracks, because we're not talking about repopulating the state, but starting with something entirely new. And we don't know what that entirely new thing would be, but it's sort of taken the conversation out of a fixed place and into something a lot more fluid and a lot more interesting as to how we can get this problem solved.
Yeah. And Bill, you have a tremendous show. It's called The Bill Walton Show. People can find it online at thebillwaltonshow.com, where you interview some of the greatest opinion molders of our day, the movers, the shakers, culture, money, politics, power, you name it. What's the best way for people to follow your work? You got the website. Are you on X or any of the social media platforms?
We're on Twitter. We're on X, rather. We're on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcast platforms. We've also got the show on our Substack page, and that we've got a very robust following there. And so we're pretty easy to find. The Bill Walton Show, just type it in your browser, will take you to one of the sites. It's been a lot easier to find me since the basketball player departed the mortal coil. And so there's a little confusion about who Bill Walton is now.
Excellent. Well, Bill, we appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope we can talk to you again very soon, and God bless you, sir.
Yeah, Alex, take care.